The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Well, hey there, everyone. Producer Pat here, hosting today's bonus show. David will not be joining me today, and this is just something that we're going to try out. We're going to see how this goes. We're going to see what it's like to have Producer Pat host the Friday bonus shows, at least for now, and if we like it, we'll keep it. If not, we can always go back to the old way of doing things. When I hosted for David a segment of the Friday show last week and a couple of the bonus shows, the feedback was positive. People said that they wanted to see more Pat, and that was surprising to me. It was surprising to many people, certainly in my friends and family. They thought, like, wow, why do you want to see more of that guy? David's much better. But that's what the comments were saying, so we got to give the public what they want. I'm sort of kidding in a sense. This also frees David to do his own thing on Friday. You know, producing the Friday bonus show can be stressful. It can be a lot. And so just this new way of doing things can help both of us. It'll allow me to sort of practice my hosting skills, get more comfortable behind the mic, in front of the camera. One of the comments that I saw from when I hosted last week was someone who said, you know, Pat did a great job, and he did probably better than most people would in his situation, but it just goes to show how prepared and polished David is. And, like, that's totally true, because David has just been doing this for a long time. He's also very good as a communicator. He has a good depth of the subject matter. I don't know if I'll ever reach the level of mastery that he has with this stuff, but I at least want to get better with it. And that allows us to do, you know, a few more things. Like if David is even going on a trip somewhere in the middle of the week and we need a guest host, I think it would be good for me to be able to step up and fill that role if need be. Certainly we can still use Farron Cousins and Ben Dixon, who are kind of our go-to guest hosts, but it would just be good to have another person who could step up in that case. So I want to be able to practice, so maybe one day I'll be able to host an entire show to myself. That'll be the day. And then, you know, maybe that'll be just another stage in this Producer Pat takeover of the David Pakman Show. But, you know, I don't want to talk about too much of that stuff because it could really blow my cover here. I mean, I already took over the Friday bonus show. You don't want to see me take any more over. So let's get into some stories. I think we're going to do stories for the most part on these, but we can also change things up. We can also have it be that Producer Pat talks about his daily life, or, you know, we could do things like have me play Producer Max in ping pong, or any number of things. I think next week I want to do a Q&A, so I'm going to post on the Reddit and ask me anything, and I'll be able to go through next week and respond to stuff. I've been doing this for 3 years now, and most people sort of know me, but I'm not always on camera, and so maybe it would help for the audience to get to know me a little bit better before I start regularly hosting, because you don't want to have a host that you don't know about. That's for sure. So, the first story I want to talk about is that Tulsi Gabbard is claiming that the DNC and the media are trying to hijack the election. She is saying this because she did not make the debate stage last month for the September debate. She has made the debate stage for October, but she is saying that, hey, the election is rigged and I don't want to be part of it. I may consider boycotting. And, you know, whenever a presidential candidate says that the election is rigged, the media go berserk. They say, how can you say this without evidence? It's not unfounded to say that the election is rigged. I mean, certainly when we saw the 2016 Democratic primary process, we knew that at the time that something weird was going on. We later found out what was going on, and that was that they were scheduling debates at odd times, not scheduling that many debates because, of course, that favors the front runner. They would coordinate debate times with, like, Sunday night football games, so people weren't tuning in. Of course, I may have said that Hillary Clinton got debate questions ahead of time. So, like, all that stuff was to make sure that Hillary Clinton is promoted and Bernie Sanders is not seen. And that's what happened. So the idea that this could happen again, totally fair claim to make by Tulsi Gabbard. But what does upset me is that it seems like she's trying to have it both ways. Like last month when she didn't make the debate stage, she was complaining, rightfully so, I think. And now she wants to complain again, even though she has made the debate stage. It's like, you got to pick one. You can't have it both ways. Now, last month, it didn't make sense, I don't think, for two candidates who were polling worse nationally than her to make the stage when she didn't make the stage, and she didn't because apparently the polls she was ahead in over those candidates just didn't count, or the DNC didn't want to certify them, or they weren't in the right states. it didn't seem right to me, but ultimately she didn't make it. Now she has made it. Just be happy that you've made it. I mean, that's how I feel. Make your statement, make your case. I mean, the reality is that if you have 12 candidates on the stage, no one's going to be able to make a big splash. I don't see why they don't have back-to-back nights with 6 candidates each, or they just start winnowing down the number of candidates. But if they're going to have 12 candidates, I mean, you're not going to be able to make much of a story out of it anyway. And I think that's what she's trying to do here. She's saying she may boycott the election. That way the media go around, they have talks about her and whether or not the process is rigged without her actually having to take the dive and not attend the debate. So, it's a little bit savvy, I suppose. So Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, if she's in the debate or if she's not in the debate, she's not going to be the nominee. I mean, that's very obvious at this point. It's kind of too late, I think, for any of these 1%ers to make a surge. It's October now. The voting starts in February. Elizabeth Warren has been able to make an upward trajectory, but that trajectory has been going on for a long time, and she was never at the very bottom of the pack. She was never at 1 or 2%. And so I don't see anyone really making a surge now. It's time for a lot of these people to start getting out of the race. Cory Booker, why is he still in? Amy Klobuchar, why is she still in? Tulsi Gabbard, I sort of feel the same way. Of course, on the left, there is a big divide over Tulsi. A lot of people are big fans of her because it appears that at least ostensibly she's a progressive. She supported, major Bernie Sanders proposals like Medicare for All, even though now she's talking about Medicare choice and backing off of, those progressive platforms a little bit. But she was also an early supporter of Bernie Sanders, and she quit the DNC at a right time when it was clear that the DNC was screwing Bernie. On the other side of things, Tulsi Gabbard has some strange ties to Modi and to Assad, and she's always criticized for that. Her voting record isn't the best. She votes with Republicans and Trump more so than the average Democrat, which is surprising for someone who claims to be a progressive and who's thought of as a progressive. But the anti-war stuff is good. I think it's good that we have a candidate who's talking about that stuff, that we don't have to be spending hundreds of billions of dollars each year on the military. Having that voice in the race is good, but at a certain point, I don't know. I think you have to get out, and I think we're getting to around that time. Another story I wanted to talk about today is that U.S. cities around the country are banning the construction of new drive-through windows. So Minneapolis is the last city to do this. This has also happened in Long Beach, California, in Fairhaven, New Jersey. And what the ordinances are saying is that if you're, a McDonald's or Burger King set up currently in one of those cities, you're fine. You don't have to take out your drive-through. But if you want to construct a new fast food restaurant, can't have that drive-through. You actually have to have your patrons park their cars and enter the restaurant to get their food the old-fashioned way. So this is interesting. The cities are saying that they want to do this because it's going to cut down on greenhouse gas emissions. And I think that makes sense. If you have a line of cars and people are just sitting in the cars waiting patiently in line with their cars idling, that's going to give off some greenhouse gases. And when you scale that up and you think about all the people in the country who love fast food and all the people who love the convenience of going through a drive-through, maybe if we did get rid of drive-throughs altogether, it would make a significant change. The other reason that they're citing is the health benefits. I suppose they realize that if you're going to have people who are eating fast food, if you're going to have people who are eating these high-calorie meals, maybe it's best for them to at least get a little bit of exercise by parking their cars and walking across the parking lot and walking into the store and waiting in line. I guess that's the idea. I just don't see how that works. Maybe you expend a little bit of energy by doing that, maybe 100 calories or so, but it's not going to make up for the caloric surplus you're going to take in from that giant meal you're going to have at McDonald's. So I think this is sort of just like a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. It's not going to do anything significant to curb the climate crisis or the health crisis in this country. It kind of reminds me of the town hall on CNN from maybe a month or two ago at this point, the climate change town hall with all the Democratic candidates. Elizabeth Warren was asked a question about whether or not we should ban plastic straws, and she was like, that's a decent conversation to have. We can talk about whether we should ban plastic straws or whether we should recycle or any of these other things that we can do as individuals. But this is the exact conversation that the fossil fuel companies want us to have. And I thought that was just so enlightened, so right. I mean, most of the things that we have to do to curb climate change have to have it at an industry level, not at a personal level, and we can't be focusing on these like small little things like plastic straws when there are bigger fish to fry. I suppose this would be a regulation on industry, right? Banning drive-throughs, that does go after these big restaurants, but at the same time, it feels as though it's just an inconvenience for the customer who are used to going through drive-thrus, who like that convenience, who like that freedom, and maybe this is government just getting in the way of that freedom. So, I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I don't expect it to make any significant difference, and it's not going to affect my life in any way, that's for sure. I don't really go to drive-thrus and fast food restaurants that often, but, I actually prefer most of the time to get out and go into the store. I found that it takes less time to do that. I mean, whenever you see like a long line of cars at a drive-thru, you realize that those cars are going to be there for like at least 10, 15 minutes, right? Whereas if you park and go in the restaurant, maybe you'll get better service. That's what I do anyway, when I do go to these outlets. And now it's a possibility for me to go to places like Burger King and McDonald's. Like they're coming out with these new plant-based options. And so maybe every now and then when I want to splurge, when I want to eat something a little bit unhealthy, I can go get an Impossible Burger at Burger King. So maybe this is something that will impact me in the future. But for now, I'm more or less apathetic to it, I gotta say. All right, so that's going to do it for today's bonus show. Thank you for tuning in, everyone.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.